Hey everyone, in this tutorial I will show you how to make this Death Eater like teleportation effect. It looks like this. So you can click anywhere on the map and you can get this teleportation, and you can control a lot of parameters with this. So here I have changed the curve, so you can go up a lot and come down, or here I have a very small curve, so I go straight like this. So I can click anywhere and I can move like this. You can also increase or decrease the speed and all that. And here I can go anywhere like this. And there you can see a custom spline path that is moving. And you can see that I made this character using a plugin called Interloper from DNA Blocks. And if you want to check that out, there will be a link in the description below. It's an AI based character creation plugin. You can sign up for the beta testing if you want. So this is what we are going to be creating today. And if you want to download the entire project file, you can support me on my Patreon. And for $5 you can download this and download all my previous tutorials from there. The links will be in the description below. So one thing I forgot to tell you is that you can also create this custom spline and your character will move along it. So if you make a spline like this, and if I just move it like this, and maybe here and here, and I will move it here, and I will move it here, and I will select this, and I will alt drag, and then alt drag like this. I get a path like this, and if I press play, you can see that the character I created using Interloper will be moving along the path and coming down like that. You can also adjust the speed using the timeline. So to create this effect, first we need to create the spline for the path. So in order to create a spline, we will create a blueprint actor. So for that, right click, then go to blueprint class, then actor. Then we can name this BP underscore spline path. Then we can open this up. Then we can go to add components and add a spline component. So we will add a spline component, this one, not the mesh. We don't really want the mesh. And we can just click that and add that. And if I go to the world, I can just bring it in. And here you can see that I can select this spline, then press Alt and drag like this, and create my own flight path if I want. But we can also create this using a blueprint. So I'm just going to undo that. So now to create this with a blueprint, go to the spline path actor, then go to event graph. Then here we will create a custom event. So right click and type in custom event. Then we will call this create path. This will create our path. So in order to create a path, we need two locations. One is origin and the second one is the destination. So the destination we will bring in from the third person character from the click location. So in order to bring that in, we can add an input here. And so since this is a location, we can select the variable type as vector, and this will be the final location. Then we can drag in our spline. Then we can just clear that spline, so it will just reset it. Then we can drag here and type in set spline points. So this will help us to create the two spline points we need to create our path. And here you can see that the points are an array. We just need 2 points, so we can just drag and type in make. So we get this make array. Then we will add 2 pins, first for the source and the second for the destination. And now for the source, which is the first one, we can just drag in the default scene route, and from here we can just type in get world location, and we can connect that to 0. And for the second one, we can just connect this here. And now we need to create the 2 tangents for the spline. So that is the arc that we create when we move. So in order to do that, we can just drag from the spline again and type in set tangent at spline point. So we need to change this coordinate space to world in the set spline points. And now in the set tangent at spline point, this point index is 0 because this is the source, and we will just duplicate this, and here this point index should be 1, so this is the destination. So this is the first point tangent and this is the second point tangent. And now in order to calculate the tangent for the first and the second point, we can just drag from here and type in subtract, and then we can just subtract the destination from the source like this, and here we just have to find the length. So we will select vector length. This will give us a scalar parameter, and now we will just multiply this with a value. This is called the curve amount, so I will just promote this to a variable and type in curve. So if this is 0, the 2 points will be straight. I mean the path will be straight. And if it is 1, it will be curved. And if it is more than 1, it will be more curved. So 0 will be a straight line and everything above that will be curved upwards. Now we only need to make this curve in the C direction. So here we can type in make vector. Then we only need the C direction to curve, because we only need curve like this. So if I select this tangent, we only need curve like this in the C blue direction. If I select other directions, it will curve like this and curve like this. So that we don't want. So just the C direction. Now we can just connect this here, and the tangent for the second one will just be an inverse of this. So we will just multiply this by -1 and connect it here. So that's all we need to do in the spline actor. So here we need to connect this target to the target here also. Connect the spline to the target. So now we need to calculate the final point. So for that we will go to the third person character. So here if I just play, you can see that I cannot see the mouse icon. So if I click on the game window, so in order for us to see the mouse window, even if we click, we can go to the third person character, and from here we can type in get player controller, then drag from here and type in set cursor, then select set show mouse cursor, and we just want to show the mouse cursor like this. Then here you can see the spline, right? But if I play, I cannot see the spline. So we need to see the spline for debugging purposes. So for that we can use a console command. You can hit the tilde key and type in show spline, so we can see the spline, or we can go to the third person character and type in execute console command, and here we can type in show splines, and I will just connect this here, and if I go to play, we can see the splines. So this is just for debugging, and in your game you can just disconnect this. We don't really need that. Now we need to create the spline when we click on the map. So in order to do that, we can type in left mouse button. So this is the event for left mouse button, and here also we need our get player controller, and from here we can type in get hit result under cursor by channel. So this is like a line trace but under the mouse cursor. So here we can break the hit result, and here we can get the hit location. So this is very important. This is our final location. Now we can go to the pressed and type in spawn actor from class. This will help us to spawn the spline actor. So here in the class we will select our VP spline path actor. And for the transform we will just split this, and here the location should be the location of the mesh. So this will be get world location. So this is the source location. So in the spline path we have two locations here, right? So this is the default scene root location. We are setting this default scene root location as the location of this mesh. And the second location, the final location, we will set as the hit result. So here we need to set that. So we can go here and call create path. Then we can just connect this here. And now if I go to play and press, we can see that I am creating this lines like this whenever or wherever I click like this. So if you want to get a curve, you can go to the curve and set this value to like 1. Then we get a big curve like this, or we can set this value to like something like 0.3. Then we can get a much more softer curve like this. So this is what we want. Now here you can see that whenever I click, it is creating new spline and the old one is still there. We don't really want that. We need to delete the old one when we create a new one. So in order to do that, we can go to the third person character. Then we will just bring it here. We are going to create a reference to the spline because we are going to need it later. And I will call this spline reference. Then connect this here. And now we can just drag this spline reference, and here we will type in is valid. So this will check if the spline is in the memory or in the game. So if it is in the game, then we will just destroy this actor before we create our new spline. And if this spline isn't in the game, we cannot delete it. So that will cause a runtime error. So in order to prevent that, if this is in there, we will just connect this directly here. So now if I press play, you can see that when I press on a new location, we are creating a new spline and the old spline is gone. So this is what we want. Now to make the character move along the spline, we will just create a timeline. So we will type in timeline and we will call this move along path. Then we can create a custom event called move along, and we can connect this to play from start. Then we can open this up and we can set the length to 1, and then we will create a float drag. We can shift click here and set this to 0, and we can shift click here and set this value to 1 and 1, and then we can just add a curve so the movement will be smoother. So we can adjust this curve depending on how you want the impact to be or the easing to be. So I will just set it like this, so it will just start slower and then end faster. Then if you want to set the speed of the movement, you can just get the move along path timeline component. Then here you can type in set play rate. So a speed of 1 will be the speed that we have here. It will be, so it happens in 1 second. So a lower value means that it will be slower. So we can experiment with this value later. Now for the important part, in order to make the character move along the spline, we will go to the update, then we will get the capsule component, and here we will type in set world location, and we will connect this to the update here, and here we have a new location. So when this timeline updates, we need to kind of ink this character along the spline, so it will go from this point to this point to this point to this point in 1 second. So we need to kind of lerp this location value. So in order to do that, we need to get the spline. So we will just get our spline reference. Then here we will type in get spline length. So we can get the length of the spline. Then here we will type in get location at distance along the spline. And this will be the spline here. We will just connect that to the target. And then we need to multiply this alpha value with this value, so it goes from 0 to 1. So from the first spline point to the last, then this coordinate should be world also. Then we can connect here and we can press play, and if I press here, nothing happens because we haven't called the move along event. So in order to call that, we can go here and type in call move along. Now if I press play, you can see that I'm moving and falling into the world. So in order to prevent us from falling down the floor, we can actually increase the C value from here, so that will increase the height, or we can just tick sweep. So if the character collides with something, it will stop moving. So now if I just press play, you can see that I'm moving along the spline like this, and it's very smooth. So here, if I just set the play rate to like 0.4, then it will be slower. See, it's much slower. Now we can also change the curve value. So if I change the curve value to like 1, then the curve will be much higher. And if I change the curve value to like 0, we will have a linear path like this. So whichever you want, you can select. See, we can go anywhere. So you can actually add maximum distance and stuff like that, and only then allow move along spine. So you can just get this distance and get this location and find the distance, and if it is only below a maximum value, you can call the move along event. Now in order to hide the mesh during movement, we can just drag in the mesh and type in set visibility, and here it shouldn't be visible, and we can just duplicate this, and here we can just go to the finished, and now when it is finished, it should be visible. Now if I press play, you cannot see the character, but now you can see. So I will just change the curve value to like 0.3. So when I am moving along the spline, I cannot be seen, but when I reach the destination, I am still visible. And this is all you need to do for the splines to work. Now we will create the particle system. So in order to create the particle system, you need one texture. I will provide this for free. You can download this from the link below. So right click the texture, then create material, then open it up. Then set this to two-sided and set this to unlit. Then change this to translucent. I will just disconnect this. Now just duplicate this, and now we can add the red channels together. So we get something like this. Then we can get a particle color node. So type in particle color. And now we can get a multiply and connect this to A and connect this to B. So this will get the opacity value from the particle system into the material. Then here we can type in multiply, then connect this to B, and we will call this intensity. And I will set this value to like 2 for now. I now connect this to the opacity. Now we can get a lerp, and we can connect this to B, and we can connect this to the MC color. And for the alpha, we can just get this and round this. So it will give us something like this cartoony like effect. So now we can connect this to the alpha here. And for the A for the lerp, we can get a texture from the starter conduct. So it will be this fire texture. We can just bring this in like this, and now we will get 2 panners, and we can connect this here and connect this here. Then in the X, for this one I will give a value of 0.35. So now you can see that it's moving this way. And for this one I will get a texture coordinate, and I will get a multiply, and I will set this value to like 0.75. So it will just stretch the texture a bit, and I will connect this here. So you can see that it is not working as intended. So we can just delete that we don't really need to do that. We can just select the texture, and here for the U tiling I can set this to 0.75. So that will work too. Now for this panel I will give a value of 0.2. So we get a movement like this. And for this texture I will get a UV coordinate, and I will get an add node, and I will connect this here and connect this here and connect this to here. So it will just distort the UV of this fire texture. So if I just preview this, you can see that it is distorting it like this. So this is what we want. And now we can just hit apply. Right now this looks weird, but we can connect that to B and connect this to A. So we can just reverse that. So we get something like this. Later we will set this value to like something very dark, like black or like very dark red. So this is what you want to create. Now hit apply. Now we will create our Niagara system. So for that, right click, then go to FX, then Niagara System. I am on Unreal Engine 4.25. So now here I can select new system and select an empty emitter, then open this up, click add and finish that, and I will call this ns_trail, then open it up. Then we will just disable the sprite renderer and just add a ribbon renderer. Then here we will just create an instance of this material. I now select this instance. Then we can add this to the material of the ribbon renderer. And now if we go to the third person character, we can type in Niagara. Then we can add a Niagara particle system. And for the system, we can select this NS trail. And if I just add that here, and if I press play, nothing is happening. So we will do some setups. So first we will type in spawn per unit. Now for the particle spawn, we will click and type in ribbon initialize ribbon. Then I will set the ribbon width to something like 55. Then if I press play, you can see that I can create this ribbon like this, but it has some issues. we will fix that. So here in the initialize ribbon, I will set the color to like a black color like this. And here for the spawn per unit, I will just disable that. And I will just add a new spawn per frame. So this is an experimental thing that they just added and it works really well. So if I just go to play and I do that, I get this nice looking effect. So I get an effect like this. So the length of the ribbon we can control by controlling the lifetime. If I change the lifetime to 0.3, then the length will be shorter. So you can use spawn per unit or spawn per frame. So this is what spawn per unit looks like. So you can also have other spawn options. So I can go here and type in spawn, then spawn rate. I will set this to like 10 or something like that. So all of this are giving me this kind of weird effects. So I really like the spawn per frame, but you can also get a similar result by playing around with the spawn per unit or spawn rate values. Per frame gave me a really nice result and it's a new feature, so I thought I will check it out. The other spawn rates might work too, you just have to adjust the value a bit. So now we can make the ribbon scale. So we can go to the update and here we will type in color. Then here we can type in scale color and here we can see the alpha separate. We can just click this and type in curve and click float from curve and we can just select this and we can just select these 2 points and do an auto curve. So this alpha value we can get through the alpha from the particle color. So this value from 0 to 1 will make the particle fade during its age. So the older it is, the more faded it will become. So here you can see that the tail is faded like that. But here we have this weird effect for the front of the particle. We really need it to be really sharp. So in order to get that effect, we can go to the particle system. Then we can go to update. Then we can type in scale and get scale ribbon width. And here we have this one value. We can just click this and like before we can type in curve and float from curve. And here what we need to do is that when it is at 0, when it is a new particle at the beginning of its life, we need it to be smaller. So this value should be 0. Then here at the end of the age, it should also be 0. So we can just cut that off. But at a point like time is equal to 9 or something like that, we can set this value to like 1. Then we can select all these 3 points and auto curve that. So we get the smooth curve. So now if I press play, I get this really nice sharp ribbon like this. So if I click here, you can see that it is very sharp and it's moving like that. We can scale this by 5. So we get a ribbon like this. So it's really smooth. So now what we can do is that we can just duplicate this. So we can just copy, then paste it. And here what we will do is that we will increase the scale to like 8. We will reduce the lifetime of the ribbon to like 0.1. So it will be shorter and thicker. So like this. So maybe we can play along with the value a bit more. So I will change the value to like 0.25. And here in this ribbon, I will change the value to like 0.5. So let's see what that looks like. So now we have something like moves like this. So that's it for the ribbon. Now we will create the smoke particles. So for that, first we need to create the material for that. So right click, then create material. Then I will call this m_smoke. Then open it up. Then I will select this and change this to translucent and change the shading model to unlit. Then here I will type in sub UV, then particle sub UV, and here for the texture I will type in smoke and I will select this T smoke sub UV. So if I open this up, you can see that it has like 8 particles in this row and 8 particles in the column. So this is an 8 by 8 sub UV. We need to remember that information. So now like before, we can just get a particle color node. Then we will just multiply this with the alpha here and we will plug this through a depth fade. So when the smoke gets near the ground, it will just fade that, and then we can just plug this into the opacity. And for the MC color, we can just get LR and we can connect the red channel to the alpha and we can connect this to the MC color and we can connect this to A. And now here we can right click and type in 2D texture and here we get this source texture and here we can just go here and type in fire and connect this here. And since this is an 8 by 8 sub UV, we can get a UV coordinate node and connect this here, and here I can change this to 8 by 8. So if I just connect this here, we can see that we get this mini fire in all the smoke sprites. So we can just connect this to the MC color and click apply. And now we can just create an instance for it. Now we can go here and right click, then add emitter, then view options, then show plugin contents and engine contents. And now select this omnidirectional particle system. So it kind of explodes like this. So if I just put it here again, so you can see that it explodes. So this is what we want. And now here you can see that it is going down. We don't really need that. So we go to the gravity and we can set this value to like a positive value. So it goes up a little bit. So not that much, maybe like 100. Okay, this is what we want. Then we can go to the sprite render. Then here in the sub UV, here it will be 8 and 8 since we are giving an 8 by 8 sub UV image. And now select the smoke instance and add that to the sprite here. So now you can see that we get this effect. And now we need to animate this sub UV. So for that we can go to the particle update, then click the plus icon and type in sub UV animation. And here since it is an 8 by 8 sub UV, 8 into 8 will be 64, so that will be the last frame. But since it starts from 0, we can set this value to like 63. So that's 64 minus 1. So I think it's animating. So now we can go to the initialize particle, and here we have this sprite size. We can just tick that and select this and type in float. Then set this value to like 500 or something like that. So it doesn't really work because this is activated, so just untick that. So we get this big smoky effect like that. Now we can just select this value to like a dark color like this. So we get a smoke like this. Now here for the sprite scale, this works really well. So we will go back to the initialize particle and we will select this to something that is more normal, like 300. Let's see what this looks like. So not that good. So I think I made an error here. So we just need this, not now. So I will just untick this, and here I will just add another empty sprite like this. So just untick this for now. We need this later, but not now. So now here we can go to this sprite material and add this here and select this to 8 by 8. Then here we will type in animate sub UV, and here 63. Then here we can do this on a GPU sim. Then we can just set fixed bounds, and now here in the emitter update we can do spawn per unit or spawn per frame. I'm just going to use spawn per frame because I really like it, but it does create a lot of particles and it is experimental, so keep that in mind. In a later version it will be more stable, I think, but you can also use spawn per unit if you want. So here I'm just going to use spawn per frame, and now I will just go to initialize and I will select float here, and I will change this value to like something like 70. Now if I press play, you can see that I'm spawning this particles like this. First we need to set the lifetime to 0.2. Then we need to select a darker color like this. Then here for the sprite size we will select 300. Then we will go to particle update, and here we have this sprite scale. We will just copy that and we'll just paste it here. And we also have this scale color. We will just copy that and paste it here. Now if I just go, we get something like this. So now we will just go to the sprite scale, and here when it starts we need it to be very small. Then it will get bigger, and at this point like 0.8 it will be fully bigger, and then it goes smaller again. So we get something like this. So now we have something like this. So this is actually very slow, so we will go here to fix this. So I will change this value to like 0.8, And here we don't really need to auto activate this Niagara system, so type in activate, so and untick auto activate, and we only want this Niagara system to active when we are moving. So in order to do that, we can just drag that in and type in set activate and connect this here and tick new activate and reset, and we can just duplicate that and bring it here, and we will just delete that, and here we will just drag and type in deactivate. So now if I press play, I cannot see the Niagara system, and if I press this, I can move and I have this effect. And here now I don't really have the particle system when I move either, so it is only when I am flying I have it. So now we only have the particle system when we are flying. So I think the smoke is a bit too big, so I will go to scale and I will change the sprite scale to like 0.8, and now here I will just add in some curve noise, and I will set a value and I will give a strength of like 50. So let's see what that looks like. So it's barely visible. So this is what we want. Now we will create the explosion. So in order to do that, right click, then go to Niagara System, and here we will create an empty system and finish. Then we will call this NX explode, then open it up, and here we don't really have anything, so we will go to the trail. So we will just copy this and paste it here, and we will just activate this, and here let's see what this looks like. So after we finish the movement, we will go here and type in spawn system at location, and this location can be this mesh location, so get world location from there, and the system is the NS explode. Then press play. So now we have the explosion. So for this we can add some Vertex Force, so type in Vertex, and I will fix that and I will add something like 400. Let's see what that looks like. So we have some nice vortex effect. Now we will add some small particles, so for that we can just copy and paste that, and we will go here and we will type in default sprite material. So we will get this, and we will set this back to like 1 and 1, and we will just disable the UV animation. And so let's see what this looks like. And now we will go to the initialize particle, and here we will give a value of 200 for the red channel and 5 for the green channel. So let's see what this looks like. So it will be huge, I think. Yeah, it's really huge. So we can fix that. We can go back to the initialize particle and select this value, and here you can type in uniform range float. So it will be from 5 to like 9, I think. So let's see. So now you can see that it's rotating like that too. So for that we can add some curl noise, and I will just set this value to like 100, and for the Vertex Force I will set this value to like 1000. Let's see. So we get this nice vortex effect after landing. I think we need to reduce the size a bit. I will change this to like 2 and this to like 7, and I will increase the color to like 2000, so it will be really bright. I will increase the curve, so I can go to the spline path and I will increase the curve to like 1, so it goes up a bit. So now I will show you how to create a custom spline path like this. So in order to do that, just bring in your spline actor. Then here, if you click this, you can move this like this, and if you press Alt and drag, you can create new spline points like this. So I'm just going to create something like this, and maybe like this here. And we need our character to move through this spline. So in order to do that, we can bring our character closer, then go to the third person character. We will create a path reference which is of the type actor, this one, and we will just click this so we get this eye, so we can edit this value in the editor. So now if I press the character, you can see that I have this path reference here since we click this eye. So now we have this eyedropper tool, so we can click this and get that path reference. Now we can go back to the third person character, and here we will just type in E keyboard, so we get this E keyboard event, and now we can just duplicate all of this from move along to the visibility, and we can bring it here, and we can connect this to E. And now for the spline reference, we can just drag our path reference and we can just connect this here, which is hard to do, so we will do a cast to BP spline path, and we will change this to pure cast. And now we can just connect this here and this here. And now if I press play, and now if I press the E key, I can move along the spline path. So now if I just edit it like this, so I can move it like this, and now if I press play, I can move along this spline like this. So that's all you need to do, and that's it for the tutorial, guys. Thanks for watching, and if you like the tutorial, leave a like and subscribe. Thanks.